So I know it's becoming more and more common and popular for longtime collectors or just people that want to start collecting to vend at local trade shows or card shows, because either they want to grow their collection, sell cards and make some money through that, or just be part of the vending community, which is a very fun and welcoming community in general. So in this video, I'm going to share with you guys some of my vending experiences on basically how to set up your table and what you should use, whether it's binders or display cases. So if you go to basically any card show, the way people display their cards is either in binders, display cases, or both of them, which is what I do and what I've been doing from the very start. And I will tell you guys, both are very effective, but in their own unique way. So I've shown you guys before, but my binder of choice is this one. So it's a 4x4 binder that holds 16 cards on each page. And here's how it looks when it's all opened up. So as you guys could see, there's a lot of cards that you guys could display on an open page. And I love this binder. So I've been running 2 binders at every show, and I recently upgraded to a 3rd binder just because it's so practical and so easy to use. But at the same time, I do use these display cases. It's a bit hard to fit on camera, but it's basically a 24x36 display case. It's a bulletin board display case that you guys might find in an office setting or a school setting where they could pin up awards. But these have been super practical while vending, and they're not very expensive, so it's great for an up-and-coming vendor to get one of these and display their cards on the table. And I started with one of these, but then I've since upgraded to 2 of these because my inventory and collection has been growing. So I outgrew the 1 display case, and I have since upgraded to 2 display cases, and potentially might even do 3 display cases as I get more and more items and slabs and graded cards and just grow my collection and vending inventory. So I'm going to share with you guys a simplified pros and cons for each one, just to quickly highlight what I've noticed, and maybe this might influence your decision on which you want to use and how many of the binders or display cases you guys want to use on your table when you want to vend. Alright, so let's start off with the pros of a binder. I mean, right away, the first pro of these is the number of cards you guys could store and display with one of these. So in particular with the 4x4 model, I could store over 1,000 cards. So that's a lot of cards that I could display, store, and people could flip through it and pick out what they want. Number 2 is setup time. So with these, it doesn't even require any setup time. You put it on the table, open it up, and you're done. That's it. With the display cases, you actually have to put all the cards in the display, organize them, and that takes up some time while setting up. And if you guys have multiple displays, it takes a while. So with a binder like this, super quick, just open it up and it's ready to go. And number 3, it's that the collectors or the buyers could just pull out the cards and create a stack. So this is really good on lower end cards, which is what I use for these binders. I don't put any high-end cards or anything over $20 or $25 inside one of these, just because of a con that I will mention in a second. But for lower end cards, they could just pull out the cards that they want, create a stack, whether it's 3 cards, 5 cards, or any amount of cards that they want to buy, and they could just show it to me. I have price labeled all of my cards, so I just tally it up. They make an offer and we close the deal. So with that in mind, the final pro is that the number of sales you guys can make through the binder is a lot higher. So you're going to make a lot of volume sales. Sure, it's not higher end sales, like you're not going to make a lot of money off of it, but it adds up. So it's really the case of quantity over quality with the binders. So if you are using binders like these just for single cards, works great. Alternatively, you could also use top loader binders for higher end cards. I know lots of vendors that do that. So any higher end cards, you put into top loader binders. Same concepts. You can't store as many cards, but your cards are better protected. So if someone wants to pull it out, they can inspect it and they won't accidentally damage it while removing it or inserting it back inside the binder. Now the cons or the negatives of using a binder is unfortunately theft. So some people have even gotten their full binder stolen. I've heard of stories where the vendor gets distracted and someone could just take the binder off their table and leave with it. So let's hope that situation doesn't occur, but I have heard stories of it. So some vendors sometimes put tape on their binders to tape it on the table or lock it onto the table with like a lock or something like that so it can't be removed. Hopefully it never happens to me, but with my binders, they're pretty heavy, so it's noticeable if someone takes them. These things weigh like 5 kilos or like 10 pounds each. Additionally, with theft, because people could remove the cards, they could remove the cards and just sneak them away with them. That's why I don't like putting high-end cards into binders, just because of that factor. Either they could steal the binder or they could steal the cards inside individually. When you're at a show and a lot of things are happening, you're not always going to notice when someone pull out the card, hide it, and leave, and you'll never notice until it's too late. And the second negative or the second con is that there are so many cards in the binder that it's a bit overwhelming, and usually someone will miss them while flipping through it. So with my binder, there's like 1,000 cards inside. So when someone's flipping through the pages, they're probably gonna miss a card or two, or they won't even notice a full page. So that is an unfortunate negative of a binder. Collectors won't always see the cards inside, so some cards do get overlooked. So that is a negative with the binder, or any other factor that makes them miss the card inside. And the final negative is that it takes a long time for someone to scroll through the binder or flip through the binder. And with that, it will create congestions at your table. So there will either be a long lineup at your table, or some buyers or collectors will just avoid your table because it's busy. So that's a negative with the binder that I have noticed. So really, those are the three negatives or cons of using a binder. So take those factors into consideration when considering what kind of binder you want to use for your table. Now for display cases, I won't hold it up the whole time, but let's talk about the pros. So the number one pro is your cards are secure behind the display case. These ones, they do have a key lock that you guys could lock your cards at all times. And hopefully this doesn't happen, but the buyer or collector shouldn't be opening up your display case to take a card out without your permission. So basically you have full authority to open up the display, show them the card, and then take it back. Your cards will be secure at all times, and they're behind the plastic or the glass display case. The second pro is that your cards are always on display. So unlike a binder where your cards will be hidden behind the pages and the buyer or collector will have to find them through the pages, and it takes a little bit of time, with a display case, they're always on display. So when someone's just walking by and they could catch something with their eye, they'll stop at your table, versus a binder where they'll have to flip through it, or if the page isn't open and they're not looking for it or they don't ask, they will overlook it. So that's kind of a negative with the binders and a pro with the display cases. And finally, why a lot of vendors use display cases, because it just looks cleaner and nicer and more professional on your table, especially if it's uniform. If you have some really nice display cases, like all the same ones, and you organize them and sort them out really nicely, it looks very professional, versus binders, which I mean it is a card show and it's fine, but binders compared to display cases, they don't look as nice and clean and professional. You guys will know what I mean if you do go to a card show. It's fun, it's great, but I mean, just strictly from a professional standpoint or from a clean and elegant standpoint, display cases look nicer compared to binders. Now, that doesn't mean display cases don't have negatives to them. There are a lot of negatives and reasons why I'm not a huge fan of display cases. Number one is they're hard to carry around and transport from show to show, or from your house to your show, or wherever you're taking them. If you have lots of display cases, you need lots of storage in your car, versus a binder that's more compact and could fit a lot more cards inside. Number two is setup time. So I've mentioned this already, but with the display cases, it takes a lot longer to set up. I mean, it's not a huge amount of time, but you guys, it will take you at least 5 minutes to put all your cards inside, organize them, and you guys might miss something or another one. And one way to actually help you guys with that is using risers. So if you guys use like little risers on your display cases, it will help you guys a lot. I'll give you guys a sneak peek of what I use, but this is kind of like a budget option. It's a very DIY option. I just put some foam and pinned it down with these pins. So that creates a kind of like a rising effect where I could just put my cards in top loaders on a bit of an angle, and I could fit an extra 2 rows of cards or top loaded cards inside my display case. It looks a lot nicer and it's a bit easier to set up. So having risers makes setup time easier and the display look nicer. Unfortunately, with these display cases that I use, it's a bit too thin, so I had to use a DIY option, but I have seen 3D printed risers on like a more thick display case that works great, and it's a lot easier to use. Finally, the last negative with display cases that the binders don't have is that you guys will have to constantly open up and take out the cards to show the collectors the condition of the card, or for them to inspect the card in person. In a binder, they could just pull it out, look at the back of the card, front of the card, and that's all. It's super easy. It's all self-service. With the display case, the vendor or whoever's the vendor or myself, we have to open up the display case, take out the card, show them, make sure they don't run away with the card, because usually it's a more expensive card, and then take it back if they don't like it, or close the deal if they do approve of the card. So that's kind of a negative that I see with the display cases. It's not as much self-serve, it's more like you guys have to constantly be on top of it. And if the collector is picky and wants to inspect a lot of cards, it gets kind of annoying constantly having to open up the display, pull out the card, show them, take it back, put it in. So it's just, the process is a bit more tedious and annoying compared to a binder where it's just available for them to self-service and take it out and inspect them themselves. So really, you guys could see binders are a lot simpler to use, quicker setup, it's all self-service, but the biggest negative is the security. Now the security with the display cases is top notch, but the setup time and the work or effort that goes into it, it's a lot more because there's less self-service and it's a lot more setting it up, taking it out, showing the buyer or collector and putting it back in. So it's a bit more work. Now, what do I prefer? To be honest, I do prefer binders more than display cases just because I can make more volume of sales. It is lower end sales, but there's more volume, and in my opinion, it's better because there's a lot more turnaround for that. Display cases are also great. They're great for slabs. The setup time is a lot longer, and finally, you can't display as many cards. So I'm someone that, like I said, I like volume. I like having a lot of cards because every collector is different and every buyer has a different niche. They're always going to ask you, do you have this particular card? It's a lot harder to have a lot of cards if you guys are limited in the space of the display case versus having a binder with 1,000 cards. like binders, they take up less space and you could store more cards inside. So it's kind of a no-brainer in terms of volume. Now the final decision is you should use both. Honestly, I use both. Most vendors use both. Some vendors use one or the other, but I've seen most people use both, and they have their different niches and their different purposes, but they work great and they complement one another. So the way I do it is, I'll show you guys. So I have two tables set up. One is for binders and then one is for the display cases. If I only have one table, I'll split the table in half. So half will be the display case and then I'll put a few binders on the other half. So I really like to have half and half. And as I've been growing, I've stuck with that method and it has worked great for me. I still make my volume sales with the binders and I still make my higher quality sales or more expensive sales with the display cases. And it helps attract different types of buyers and collectors to my table depending on what they're looking for. So I know there's no definite answer, but hopefully the pros and cons will help you guys make your decision. And honestly, if you're just starting out, using binders is a great idea. Especially if you're only running one table, the security isn't as big of a factor because you could pay attention to your table. And if you guys don't have a lot of binders, it's going to be easy to notice who's taking out what, and you guys will be on full alert. So binders is great to start out with. Maybe get a case once you do have some more expensive items, whether it's slabs or more expensive single cards. But if you have just lower end cards or just a lot of cards that you want to display, I do recommend binders a lot for new vendors, and anyone that doesn't use binders, I think they're missing out. So hopefully I was thorough enough with that explanation, and my experiences will help you guys with your journey and becoming a vendor. And if you guys have any questions, drop them down below. I always love answering questions from new vendors or people that want to start vending. So that's the video. As always, if you guys like the video, please drop a like, subscribe if you guys are new here, and share this video with anyone that wants to start vending. Thank you guys for watching.